All right. Welcome back, everyone. It is currently 8:33 p.m. Central Time, Thursday, October 20th. I'm not sure if you can tell with my voice. I I was all set to do this podcast, and I was eating dinner, and I had something caught in, food caught in my throat, and it would I've never really had it happen before, but it did a weird thing where I kept trying to cough it out, and it kept like it would come out, then it would go back in, and I really struggled with it. So voice is a little tender this evening. There was a stretch there. I was like, I'm not sure I'll be able to podcast if I'm coughing every 30 seconds like I was, but it's died down a little bit. So yeah, I'm back. I'm playing through it. See, there you go. It's like a tickle in the back of the throat. So just me again. I did ask James to come on, and he declined. I shouldn't say it that way. He had other plans, which I figured would probably be the case. So Thursday night football going on right now. Saints and Cardinals. Cardinals are currently up 20-14. I went in the other room, but they clearly just had a defensive touchdown. I don't know if it was a pick six or a fumble recovery for a touchdown, but so that's going on. Close to the end of the first half. I'm just going to do picks. I already did the recap earlier this week. You can scroll through our other videos if you're listening and find that. But I'm just going to do picks, and I think I'm going to talk TV shows. So afterwards. So Thursday night football, Saints at Cardinals. The line for this game hovered around Cardinals -2.5, -3. I actually picked the Saints to. Before I continue, I need to. Golly. I need to recap how last week went. So in the NFL last week, one of my best weeks, not one of my best weeks ever, but one of my best weeks against James. So there were 14 games. I got 10 right. James got 7 right. 3, game swing for us. We had 3 differences, and it came down to which games were they? Oh, I didn't mark them down, or I marked them down. I deleted them. Let me see if I can find it on my laptop. What games were they? I have a whole spreadsheet for all the picks that we make. Last week it was the New England-Cleveland game, Indianapolis and Jacksonville, and Arizona and Seattle. So, rare instance where I swept. Usually James is the one that sweeps me, but I actually got the better of him. So that improves my total. A couple weeks ago we were even. That improves my win total. I'm now up 4. I don't think I've ever been this. I've ever done this well. So I'm up 4 with a record of 56-37-1. Again, this is just upright, or straight up, not against the spread. James is 52-41-1. Not our best work. I mean, I have the percentage here. I'm only hitting on 60% of my picks. That's below my average. My average is 62.7. So I'm below average this year. The NFL's been upside down. I went into a whole thing on that last week. So anyway, in college, I think I did reveal that earlier this week, but James and I finished even. It was a crazy week. Oh, another interception by New Orleans. Are they going to return this again? I don't think so. Nope, they are. Oh my goodness. Well, Andy Dalton should have known better. So week 7, we both finished 6-6, which is funny because we differed on like 6 picks, and I think we both went 3-3 in those different picks. So both finished 6-6. Not a good week at all. I'm up 1 currently in college football with a record of 56-28. I'll get to that percentage in a bit. It's got to be near. I mean, I think it's. Actually, I'm not sure it is. It might be in the like high 50%. I don't think it's 60% yet. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to picks. So Thursday night game going on right now. New Orleans and Arizona. Arizona just scored 2 defensive touchdowns, so not looking good. I picked the Saints, and not looking good right now. James, I think I'm not going to go through all of James's picks. I'll reveal those at a later date. All right, so Sunday, I'm starting with Green Bay at Washington. Packers right now are -4.5. I really want to pick against Green Bay. Don't like the way they've been playing the last few weeks. But Carson Wentz is hurt for this game. Taylor Heineke's playing. He's capable. But I think it's going to be tough for Washington to win without Wentz. There's a reason why Heineke's the backup. So I'm going to go with Green Bay. I don't want to do it, though, but it's just one of those deals. I guess I'll take the Packers, but I really wanted to pick against them. Atlanta at Cincinnati. Bengals right now are -6.5. This feels like a tough game for the Falcons. I felt like Cincinnati really found its footing last week, which is something we've been waiting on. Their offense hadn't played well all season, but last week was the first time we really saw them be explosive. They scored 30 points. They averaged 6.4 yards per play. So a step in the right direction. I think the Bengals might be finding some momentum, getting some traction. Tough to win on the road in the NFL. So I'm going to go with the Bengals to win. Detroit at Dallas. Cowboys right now -7. Last I checked anyway, I don't know if the line has changed because it was announced that Dak Prescott is going to play. I would imagine the line moved more in Dallas's favor. I'm going to go with the Cowboys. Don't think they're going to be, potent on offense. With Dak back, they might have some struggles, because he's been out of the lineup for the last, 5-6 weeks. I think they struggle a little bit. However, I like Dallas's defense to get some pressure on Detroit. Detroit not played well the last 2 weeks. They are coming off a bye, so that worries me a little bit. But at the same time, Detroit's defense is terrible. They're allowing 34 points per game. They're giving up an average of 6.5 yards per play, that's a really high number in the NFL. I think it's worse in the league in both. I don't trust the Lions at all. And to win on the road, you either have to have a great quarterback or a great defense. Cowboys. Lions don't have either. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys to win and probably cover. Colts at Titans. Right now it's Titans -2.5. I'm surprised by the line of this game. I figured Vegas would consider the Titans to be more of a favorite. They're coming off a bye week. I read this week, I wrote it in my blog, Mike Vrabel, I don't think has ever lost a game as a head coach when he has extra time to prepare. So that's noteworthy. Titans, I thought, found their footing after an 0-2 start. They won 3 in a row. Granted, they didn't look their best, but they still found a way to win. Coming off a bye week, I don't trust the Colts offense. So this feels like a game the Titans win, and the spread -2.5. I think the Titans go ahead and win and cover. But again, we don't keep track of against the spread. Bucks at Panthers. Right now it's Bucks -11. Again, similar. I have a similar opinion about Carolina that I did last week. I think the Panthers' defensive front could get after the Bucks and Tom Brady. The Bucks are struggling up front. They've had too many injuries. They're not getting a lot of push. And Carolina has a pretty good defensive front. So I think the Carolina could get after Tampa and make it difficult for the Bucks offense to get going. However, P.J. Walker's starting for Carolina. They just traded Robbie Anderson. It sounds like they're trying to move on from Christian McCaffrey. Carolina also doesn't have a head coach. Tampa Bay should win this game. But I don't think it's going to be like a 40-0 blowout. I think it's going to be 21-7, maybe. All right, Giants at Jaguars. This is another game. I'm pretty surprised by the spread. Vegas has it as Jags -3. I just don't see any reason to pick against the Giants. They've proven me wrong several times already. Brian Daboll has proven he's got this team playing well. They're running the ball well with Saquon Barkley. And Jacksonville has lost 3 games in a row since the 2-1 start. Trevor Lawrence hasn't played well during that stretch. I could see the Jags winning, certainly, but I don't see very many reasons to pick against the Giants right now, so I'm going to go with the Giants. All right, Browns at Ravens. Ravens are minus 6.5. This feels like a really bad matchup for Cleveland. The Browns' defense is really bad against the run. They allow 131.5 yards per game on the ground and 5 yards per carry. That's a bad combination before going to play Baltimore, a team that likes to run the ball, the team that has a very mobile quarterback in Lamar Jackson. Gosh almighty. Gosh. No, I'm not sick. Throat's acting up. This feels like a game the Ravens should win and cover. Favorable matchup for them. Ravens average over 150 rushing yards a game and average close to 6 yards per carry. So I will go with the Ravens to win comfortably. Jets at Broncos. Right now it's Broncos minus 1. I'm going to go with the slight upset here. Like the Giants, I see no reason to pick against the Jets. Robert Saleh has that defense playing really well. Sauce Gardner looking like an all-pro already at corner, looking like the defensive player of the year. Defensive rookie of the year. Playing like an all-pro. They're really good up front. Denver struggling on offense. And Denver has been vulnerable against the run defensively, so I think Breece Hall is going to have a very productive day. I'll go with the Jets. I think this is a favorable matchup for them, even though it's on the road. Texans at Raiders. Raiders right now are minus 7. Both teams coming off a bye. Never know how that's going to work. But I'm going to go with the Raiders. I like the way they were playing before going into their bye week. Houston's defense also struggles to defend the pass, and they have a bad pass rush. Derek Carr should be comfortable. He should be able to dice up Houston's secondary, and I think Devontae Adams is going to get open quite a bit. So I'll go with the Raiders to win and probably cover. Seahawks at Chargers. Chargers right now minus 6. I'm very surprised by that line. Makes me think Vegas knows something I don't. But this is another game. I think I'm going to take the upset. I don't like the way the Chargers have been playing. They struggle to stop the run defensively. And Seattle runs the ball effectively with Kenneth Walker. Is it Kenneth Walker Jr. or Kenneth Walker III? I always get that mixed up for whatever reason. I'm just going to call him Kenneth Walker. It is Kenneth Walker III. And then Geno Smith makes plays when called upon. Pete Carroll's a better head coach than Brandon Staley. Oh, gosh. I'm not afraid to be bold. I'll go with the Seahawks. Even though this game is in the LA area, Chargers don't have a home field advantage. So I'll go with Seahawks. God damn. All right. Steelers at Dolphins. Right now it's Dolphins minus 7. Tua Tagovailoa is expected to play this game. So I feel like the Dolphins should get back to their form from like week 1 to week, 4? I swear to God. I can't stop coughing. Where was I? Dolphins should get back to their old form. Steelers have been really bad offensively this season, particularly on the road. They're averaging 14.3 points per game and 5 yards per play offensively on the road. So I think the Dolphins should win this game. and they should be able to cover. Mike, you never know with Mike Tomlin though, so I still like the Dolphins to win though. Monday Night Football. Bears at Patriots. I'll be very surprised if the Bears win this game. They've been really bad offensively this season, especially on the road, much like Pittsburgh, averaging around 14 points per game and 5.4 yards per play. The Patriots have found their footing the last couple of weeks. They've won 2 games in a row. God almighty. They have won 2 games in a row and then really played well for 3 weeks in a row. They run the ball well. Bill Belichick also has a good track record against young quarterbacks. So this feels like a very favorable matchup for New England. All right, game of the week. Chiefs at Niners. Chiefs right now are -2.5. I think the Niners have sustained too many injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. If they were healthy, I wouldn't hesitate to pick them to win this game. But too many injuries. Kansas City is a really good offensive team. They average close to 30 points per game and 6 yards per play. I'll take the Chiefs to win and cover. That's a small spread, even though this is going to be a tough road game for them. But Chiefs to win and cover. So those are my picks this week. I can't get out of here fast enough. I know y'all. If you're listening, I know you're probably tired of hearing me cough, but I'm dead serious. The talking makes it worse. I probably shouldn't have podcasted tonight, but I decided to do it anyway because I thought I could manage it. It's just this constant. It's the feeling of, when you eat pork rinds and you accidentally inhale, like that pork rind dust or whatever, and the next thing you know, you're coughing the entire day because you can't clear your throat. It's the exact same feeling. And talking only makes it worse, so not good for the podcast. All right, college football week 8. So I'm wrong. I'm close to 70% of my picks this season for college football. Did not think that was the case. All right. Iowa at number 2, Ohio State. Right now the spread is Ohio State -29.5. I'll be honest. I mean, that's a big number, but Ohio State's probably going to score 29 points by itself in the game. Iowa doesn't have, unless Iowa can just force a bunch of turnovers, get short fields. I don't see a scenario where the Hawkeyes win this game. I think the Buckeyes win big. They're also coming off a bye. All right, number 14, Syracuse at number 5, Clemson. I'm not ruling out the upset here. Syracuse has been a very good defensive team this season. They allow only 16 points per game against Power 5 competition. And I'm not sure I quite buy if DJ Uiagalelei has figured things out and that Clemson's offense is that good. But Clemson has been playing a lot better the last few weeks. They've won, 3 or 4 games in a row. Well, they're undefeated, but since the Wake game, they've played a lot better. So I'm going to go with Clemson, but I wouldn't be too quick to rule out Syracuse. Number 21, Cincinnati at SMU. Not really sure what to make of this game, which is why I picked it. I wanted, a game that I wasn't sure about. A game that wasn't easy to predict, so I decided to go with this one. Don't think SMU is good enough defensively. Luke Fickell has built a factory at Cincinnati of good players, so I'm going to go with the Bearcats to win this one. Right now it's Bearcats are -3.5. Kansas at Baylor. Right now it's Baylor -9.5. Doesn't sound like Jalen Daniels is going to play for Kansas, and that's a problem. They've lost 2 games in a row since he got hurt. Baylor has more time to prepare. They played Thursday night last week at West Virginia. I think Dave Aranda is going to have the Bears ready to go. So give me Baylor. Number 7, Ole Miss at LSU. Right now it's LSU -2. Don't think Ole Miss is as good as the number next to it. I do think they are slightly overrated. I think they have issues defensively. They've also struggled to defend the run. LSU is a very good rushing team. So with the game in Death Valley, I feel like this is a game LSU should win. So I will go with the upset here. Number 20, Texas at number 11, Oklahoma State. Texas is minus 6.5. That's a big number. I went back and forth on this, but Texas struggles on the road, but I'm still going to pick the Longhorns to win this game. The dynamic of this team has changed ever since Quinn Ewers returned from his injury. Also, Spencer Sanders is hurt for Oklahoma State. It's kind of up in the air whether or not he's going to play. I think it could go either way. I'm probably going to say he plays, but I'm not sure he's going to be that dynamic, and he's a quarterback I don't really believe in to begin with. So I will go with Texas to win this game. I feel foolish for doing it, but I think they take care of business. They find a way to win. Number 24, Mississippi State at number 6, Alabama. This feels like a game Mississippi State is catching Bama at the wrong time. Mississippi State has not been a very good road team this year. They average only 24 points per game and 4.9 yards per play. That's a problem. However, they could dice up Bama's secondary, which we've seen get picked apart against Tennessee and Texas. However, Alabama has not lost back-to-back games in the regular season under Nick Saban since his first year in 2007. They have lost back-to-back games with Saban, but they've come like in the SEC Championship or the Iron Bowl, and then they lose the bowl game. So not in the regular season. So pretty good track record. I got the Tide, and I think the Tide's going to come out pissed off after losing to Tennessee last week. Minnesota at number 16, Penn State. I'm very surprised at the line of this game. It's only Penn State -4. I think Penn State is a much better team. However, Minnesota does have a decent rushing attack, and Penn State just gave up over 400 yards rushing against Michigan. I wouldn't completely rule out the Golden Gophers. I think they keep it somewhat close, but I will take the Nittany Lions to win and cover. Boise State at Air Force, another game. I wanted to do something that would stump me. I'm going to go with Boise State. The way to beat these service academies and triple option teams is to obviously stop the run. Do you get in the backfield and well, that's really about it because sacks factor into getting in the backfield. Boise State does that. Boise State is very good against the run. They only allow a little over 100 yards per game. That's pretty good. And only 2.92 yards per rush. That's very good. They also rank in the top 50 in the country in sacks and tackles for loss. The Broncos have more talent, even though the game's at Air Force. But I will take Boise State to win. Texas A&M at South Carolina. Second half just started for Thursday Night Football. I was catching the opening kick. A&M has struggled offensively, but South Carolina's defense hasn't been that great this year. They have allowed 35 points per game and 6 yards per play against Power 5 competition. Not very good. A&M has a significant talent advantage and coaching advantage with Jimbo Fisher. I think the Aggies get it done, but I think the Gamecocks keep it very close. But I will go with A&M to win. A very underrated game. Number 17, Kansas State at number 8, TCU. TCU right now is -3.5. I went back and forth on this all week. I originally was going to go with Kansas State. I changed my mind. In order to beat Kansas State, you have to be able to stop the run. Kansas State has one of the best rushing attacks in the country with Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn. They're a problem, and I didn't think TCU's defense was good enough to be able to do that. However, they're actually decent against the run, excluding sacks, because remember, in college, your run defense, sacks is factored into your run defense. So, excluding sacks, TCU's still very good against the run. They allow only 3.9 yards per carry. I think that's good enough to slow down Kansas State. The game's at Fort Worth. Even if TCU can't slow down Kansas State's offense, and let's pretend that Kansas State, churns the clock and is efficient and scores, and takes time off the clock, I think the Horned Frogs are good enough offensively and can score quick enough to make up for that as a counter. So, something else to keep in mind in that matchup. But I picked against TCU quite a few times already this year. I'm going to go with TCU to win this game. I think they're a more talented team than Kansas State. Game of the week, number 9 UCLA at number 10 Oregon. Oregon -6. I'm going to go with UCLA to cover, but I will take Oregon to win. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a nice game in terms of weather. I would expect it to be very, maybe just bad weather in Eugene. Both of these teams run the ball. I would hammer the under because I think both teams are going to lean on the run if it starts to rain. But I'm going to go with Oregon. Oregon is a very good rushing team. They average close to 250 yards per game on the ground and 6.2 yards per carry. Autzen Stadium can be a tricky place to play. I don't like putting my fate in Bo Nix's hands, but I will take the Ducks to win this game, but I'm not super confident in it. So those are my college picks for this week. Getting out of here in about 30 minutes. So throat feels a little bit better. I'll continue talking. How's this game going? They're just showing highlights. So I wanted to touch up on some TV shows. I was a huge fan of Game of Thrones when it was on. I've thoroughly enjoyed House of the Dragon. Rings of Power just wrapped up. My thoughts on Rings of Power has been, I've been entertained, but that could have been a lot better. If I was to rate it out of 10, I would give the show like a 6.5. It did some things right, but in all honesty, it did some things I just wasn't crazy about. The pacing was very slow, and again, there's a big difference between a slow burn, which has really been all of season 1 of House of the Dragon, is a slow burn. You can feel the tension in the room with these scenes that's just talking, or in general, I'll get to House of the Dragon in a bit. The writing of Rings of Power has been a little bit of a mixed bag. I would lean more toward not very good. The dialogue isn't that good. Acting is fine. I've seen better acting, though. Acting it's not that good. Compared to that and House of the Dragon is the much better show in terms of acting and writing. My biggest beef with Rings of Power is the pacing is off. There were episodes where I felt like they were getting momentum, and then they would take a huge step back. And I heard someone say this, and I completely agree. Rings of Power felt like a show that the writers don't even know the source material, and they kept trying to reassure the audience of what was going on. It reminded me of, when he made the point, it reminded me of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. There's a few episodes where they, make sequels to the Lethal Weapon franchise. And when Mac is on the screen, he continues to clarify things because he thinks the audience is stupid. So he'll say, they're like, there's one scene where they play a game of pickup hoops. And he says, so if I score on you, I don't have to come to the wedding. And Dennis says, yes. And he just keeps asking the question, so if I score on you, and that's what Rings of Power has felt like. It has constantly been, are we sure? I don't know. Are we sure that Sauron lives? Are we sure that the elves are in trouble, with the Mithril? And are we sure the dwarves are going to help? It was just this constant clarification. And with a show that, if you're watching the show, you're likely already a Lord of the Rings fan, like me. I love Tolkien. I love Lord of the Rings. I like The Hobbit. I've read The Silmarillion. I understand not all of the lore, but most of it. I can tell you, after seeing the first season, I can tell you the direction likely the show is going in. Big play by Chris Olave. And it doesn't seem like either the writers understood the source material for Rings of Power, or they weren't giving the audience credit, or they didn't think the audience would understand. Or maybe they put too much power in, or too much emphasis on people who wouldn't understand the lore. So that was my biggest issue with the show. It felt like they were constantly clarifying things. I'm not 100% sure they even understood the source material, and their pacing was way off because of it. There were times where I felt like they were getting some momentum, then it would be a huge step back. You see that in episodes 2 and 3. Episode 1 is terrible. Episode 2 and 3 are pretty good. You can see the direction they're going, and then episode 4 is a huge step back. Again, just over clarifying things. And then episode 5, it gets better. Episode 6 was their best episode. And then episode 7, again, it dials it back. I mean, they argue it was setting up for the finale, but I don't know. It just, the writing could have been a whole lot better. That's my issue. I did not, contrary to what my friends say, I did not hate the show. I didn't dislike the show. But it left a lot to be desired. The best parts of the show were the scenes with Elrond and Durin. Galadriel grew on me as the show went on. At first, I was very torn on her character because, she didn't act like Galadriel from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And now, in hindsight, after we've seen the whole first season and her go on this journey with Halbrand, who, spoiler alert for people who haven't watched the finale, turns out to be Sauron, which I'll get to that in a bit here. That makes more sense about how, because in Lord of the Rings, she's kind of a recluse. She keeps to herself. And, you knew that something had to happen, and that makes sense. She became very trusting of Halbrand. There may have been some sexual tension there. I don't know. I never really got quite that vibe. I felt more Halbrand thirsted over her more than she thirsted for him. But she clearly grew to trust Halbrand. She thought he was this hero, who would save the Southlands and get rid of Sauron and his followers and all that. And it turns out that the man is Sauron. So anyway, so that leads me to my whole point about Sauron. The reveal that Sauron or Halbrand is Sauron, and I didn't hate it. I thought the reveal was very well done. It was pretty obvious though, because you knew that they were going for a big reveal. One of the main characters was going to be Sauron. I held out hope that it wasn't going to be that way. I was hoping it would be more true to the books, because in the books, Sauron takes the form of an elf named Anatar, and he comes to the elves, and he comes to Celebrimbor, and he sways him to create the Rings of Power, which does kind of happen. But again, I understand why the show did what it did. I think it wanted to surprise the audience. But again, as someone who has, like I said, read the Silmarillion, once they got to Lindon, and Halbrand starts asking about, not the rings, because they wanted to do something else at first, but he starts convincing Celebrimbor to start, forging these, different items. And I was like, okay, well, he's clearly Sauron. So anyway, I don't hate that it was different from the books. It was just really obvious. And again, I just held out hope that we'd get to the finale and they'd be meeting with, Gil-galad and Celebrimbor and Halbrand and Galadriel, and Celebrimbor would say something like, oh, by the way, here is my associate, Anatar, who, I don't remember if I said that's the name that Sauron takes when he deceives the elves, but that's what I was hoping for, and we would see this very angelic, person enter the screen, and I'll be like, oh, that is Sauron. So, where do they go from here? The show, I had my issues with the show, but it kept me entertained enough to come back for Season 2, and I think Season 2 could be really good. I would imagine Season 2 is going to deal with, I think we're going to have some conflicts between Halbrand / Sauron and Adar and his followers of orcs who are in Mordor. Because I think it's going to be a, conflict for dominance in Mordor, and we all know Sauron's going to come on top. I would also think we're going to see the fall of Numenor. It might not be next season, but it is coming. They made that clear. I would imagine it's coming in season 2. I hope it's not different from the show, or I'm sorry, the books, because in the books, Sauron goes to Numenor and brings down the kingdom from within, rises through the ranks and brings it down from within, sort of deal. I'm hoping they do that, but it's going to be hard to do that. And then Isildur we know Isildur's still going to be around, even though they think he's dead. I would imagine him and Sauron are going to meet in Mordor and have some conversation. And honestly, I was thinking about it. That might be what brings Sauron to Numenor. Maybe he goes, maybe he meets Isildur. They help him kill Adar and the other orcs. And Sauron claims Mordor for himself, and then he, in return, brings Isildur back home to Numenor, and he rises to the ranks again, and then he brings down Numenor from within. It could still work, but a little bit of a long shot. I understand that. I would imagine Galadriel hooks back up with her husband, who they say is dead on the show. We know is not dead, and not Celebrian. That is her daughter who marries Elrond. What is his name? Is it Celeborn? Celeborn. I would imagine he shows back up in some capacity. I don't know where he is, but I would imagine he's probably lost in captivity. Something. I don't think he's dead, and I think he's going to reappear in season 2. We also might get some of Durin's Bane, the Balrog, which was teased in season 1. And I would imagine that becomes an issue in season 2. And we'll get some more Balrogs, dwarves fighting Balrogs. That would be cool. So, again, season 1 not great, but I think they have a foundation to have a really good season 2 and go from there. So, that's my Rings of Power talk. As for House of the Dragon, we got 1 episode left. House of the Dragon has been excellent. And you know what? I'll recap House of the Dragon when it wraps up next week. So, House of the Dragon has been excellent from start to finish, though. I want to wrap up with that. What else we got going on? It's currently, 9:11 p.m. Central Time. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go ahead and call it. I'm 37 minutes in. I'd like to catch the end of this game, which is Arizona up 11 right now. Can we abolish the 3? I know it worked on that play, but it wasn't a 3-man rush. I can't count. But it looked like a 3-man rush there, and I just want to abolish the 3-man rush. I really hate it. I don't know what else to talk about. MLB postseason's going on, but I kind of already touched up on that. NBA just started. WVU alum Joe Mazzulla, who is the current interim head coach for the Boston Celtics, got his first win. Love seeing that. I've speculated with my friends quite a bit about who could replace Bob Huggins at West Virginia. And we threw out some names. For a lot of former WVU alums have become head coaches. All of them, including Mazzulla, played, though, for John Beilein, who was the head coach before Huggins, before he went to Michigan. I'm sorry. He was the head coach at WVU before Huggins, before going to Michigan. Because it was John Beilein, Darius Nichols. Darius Nichols did play a year for Huggins, and then Joe Mazzulla played most of his playing career with Huggins. But they all three were recruited by John Beilein. Beilein, for whatever reason, flamed out. He resigned. He became a head coach twice. I forget all the schools, but I know he ended up, at Rider or Niagara, one of those small schools, and then just up and resigned. I haven't heard a peep from him ever since. Hope he's doing all right. Darius Nichols' name has been thrown around. He was an assistant somewhere. Then he was an assistant at Florida. I remember that. And then he is now the head coach at somewhere in Virginia. I forget where. Starts with an R, maybe Rider. I don't think that's right, though. but he's the head coach there. I've heard his name floated around, but I remember Joe Mazzulla's name, though. He was the head coach. He was an assistant at the NAIA level, D3 level, something like that. And he became the head coach at a small school called, I think it was Fairmont State. Either that or Glenville State. I can't remember which one. And they're Division II. He became the head coach there, did pretty well, and then he became an assistant under Brad Stevens with the Boston Celtics. And when he got that job, everybody was like, okay, he must know some basketball. And then now he's only 34 years old, and Brad Stevens resigns. Brad Stevens, resigns as the head coach of the Boston Celtics a few years ago. They hire Ime Udoka. Ime Udoka gets suspended for the whole year for some extracurricular activities that I won't get into. But then the team promotes Joe Mazzulla to be the interim head coach, to which I was like, oh, I didn't even know he was still an assistant there. So he was hired by Stevens, kept by Udoka, now the interim head coach. I'm getting way off topic here. I realize that, but that's a name I would love to see replace Bob Huggins. Not that Bob Huggins is thinking about retirement. I don't think he is, but I've been critical of him and have said that it might be time to move on. My opinion hasn't changed, especially if this season doesn't go well. But Joe Mazzulla is a name to consider. I'm not getting my hopes up, though. Most guys don't go from the top to college. He's a head coach. And if he does well, like if he takes Boston to the playoffs and wins a playoff series or two, let alone gets them to the finals again. But if he gets into the playoff and they can have win a series or two, I would imagine he's going to get a head coaching job in the NBA. And if that happens, he ain't coming to West Virginia. But if he can hang around as an assistant, I think we got a shot. Just look at what Juwan Howard did. Juwan Howard was an assistant in the NBA for a very long time. And then Michigan opened up after Beilein left. They hired Juwan Howard, who was more than willing to come back to his alma mater. I'm hoping it would take something like that, I think, for Mazzulla to come back. And I don't really know if Mazzulla has that relationship with WVU. But anyway, I got sidetracked there. I just wanted to keep going. I'm going on 45 minutes. I'll go ahead and wrap this up. New Orleans has the ball right now at around midfield, down 11, so this could get interesting here in a bit. I will leave you all at that. It is currently 9:16 Central Time. I'm ready to go to bed. I haven't slept much this week. So, y'all enjoy some football this weekend. Later.